what the priorities are. Fnatic will be on the blue side, and Medic last split, something that we spoke a lot about was the fact that Fnatic had a tendency to ban Kalista.
Yep.
Now, I had a quick look back at some of their bans from earlier in the week, and they haven't been banning it, right?
Okay.
So I thought, okay, maybe Kalista could increase in priority for them, and I'm curious as to where Kalista is going to fall on the priority list for this team, because I think that, as we saw last game, it can be a pretty effective champion in the early game. Oh. All right, well, interesting. So maybe Fnatic. Well, we're gonna have to keep track of this throughout this play, because this might just be because there are so many strong AD carries that they have other priorities, which is fine. But if Kalista does become stronger as the season progresses, I do want to see if Rekkles can. Like, surely Rekkles plays it, but he hasn't played it in such a long time.
It's true.
Like, it was a problem for them in the finals of last split as well, but it's not a big deal right now. A lot of the big power picks are still up in the form of Syndra, Varus. Twisted Fate is actually going to be banned away from XL. This is pretty interesting. Obviously a very targeted ban towards Nemesis, one of his most well-known champions here in the LEC. But again, these power picks, things like Thresh are still up and available. We can also see, as we already mentioned, the Varus is up, the Felios is up, the Syndra is up.
The Ezreal is up.
Trundle's going to be banned. Okay, so the jungle pool has been pinched a little bit, but...
I guess with the Graves ban, Fnatic are like, we don't want to give you Trundle if we can't take the Graves, so that kind of makes sense. Okay, Hylissang is just drawing respect bans on the Blitzcrank
So
now.
this has to be a Varus or a Syndra. XL are forcing them to trade which one they think is more important from the Fnatic side.
Let's see if they put their eggs... Well, I mean, Rekkles plays both of them. I've seen him playing a lot of Syndra recently. So it's going to be Varus. It appears as they lock that one in. Now we'll see where XL go. Unsurprising, Syndra Thresh is going to be their pick. So Patrik can play Syndra, but obviously Special is very comfortable on the champion as well.
So what direction do Fnatic choose to go in now? With the jungle pool being pinched, they may want to just lock in their jungler pretty early. We've seen a couple of Lee Sin games from Selfmade. Again, I'm a little mixed on the champion. Obviously, we've seen it have success, and I think Selfmade is an especially talented Lee Sin player, so it's not like I think that he can't play. It's just in the current meta, I have mixed opinions on it. A couple of hovers right now. We did see a bit of a Gragas hover, but it is going to be the Gangplank blind pick lock-in. This suggests that Fnatic wants to try and... Well, actually, I'm surprised that they would want to save their support pick for later when they could have just guaranteed themselves a counter pick right now. And Gangplank does have so many counter picks. We saw from, I believe it was Dan yesterday, the Vladimir counter pick, and we know that Kryze has been trending towards these carry-style top laners as well.
Kryze played Vladimir yesterday as well.
Oh yeah, of course, right.
He's played Kayle, Vladimir, and we'll see what he picks up in this game. There's the Gragas Gangplank combination for Fnatic, and now I don't think this is going to be an AD carry. I did look back. Special has played one Syndra game on the LEC stage. He did go 7-4-8 against Misfits, but they ended up losing the game.
So the great thing about Syndra is she can be flexed.
Yeah.
So you don't really want to lock in an AD carry yet, because it can be put into either or. And I think Syndra is one of the few champions that does very well into Varus in the bot lane as well, especially when paired up with a Thresh. But we were talking about the Vladimir. There's the lock-in for Kryze. So while early on in the laning phase, the Vladimir will struggle, the idea is that it eventually outscales and becomes much more prominent both in a side lane and in the 1v1 as well. So now I'd love to see support bans from XL. Let's take away that Tahm Kench. Let's take away a potential Brawl, maybe a Nautilus. I don't think Lulu is commonly seen paired up with the Varus, but even if it was locked in, I'm like, yeah, I've got Syndra and I've got a Thresh. I'm more than happy to play into a Lulu. Thank you very much. So yeah, these are the kind of support picks that I want to see taken away, because we've seen the most success against Varus when he's actually paired up against a Karma, because Karma can't protect him against a lot of the dive. And what Vladimir is very good at is just diving onto that back line and just obliterating them. So I think taking away some of these protection tools would be a great ban for XL.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Of course, Syndra into Varus, if you have a Tahm Kench there, as soon as the Unleashed Power comes out, you just gobble up the Varus and mitigate a huge amount of that damage as well. Yasuo and Corki will be the bans in the mid lane, though, from XL. They decide not to follow our advice and ban out the support.
This does suggest that they are looking at a Syndra in the mid lane right now, which means that, of course, the AD carry pick will likely come through. We also then see the Tristana coming through from Fnatic, so they're thinking something along the same lines.
There is still the possibility of an Aphelios pick here. Hasn't been banned out. Aphelios Thresh is okay. in that bottom lane.
Maybe they're afraid of picking an Aphelios into Gragas, especially with Syndra already locked in. You're not going to get a huge amount of peel. But this does also mean that like a bunch of support picks are open for Fnatic, so they kind of have a lot of freedom here. Yeah. And I think Tahm Kench would be really strong against this composition. Against Syndra, against Vladimir, that duo specifically, I think Tahm Kench can mitigate so much damage that I am surprised that it wasn't taken off the table.
Totally agree with you there, Vedius, and we'll see if Fnatic do as well. Looks like you are reading Mithy's mind. Tahm Kench is the hover, at least. We'll see if they lock it in. And then they just have to pick their mid laner. Tahm Kench will get locked. Mid lane, the last remaining role.
Of course, XL still keeping their options open, showcasing a lot of flexibility. The hover on Orianna right now is coming through, and I think this is a pretty safe blind that I think Special would be quite comfortable playing a Syndra into. I've heard mixed things about the Syndra versus Orianna matchup. I think that it can be quite skill expressive, depending on how comfortable both players are on their respective champions. But now we'll get to find out. Is this Syndra in the mid lane? Is this Syndra in the bot lane? I expect it to be in mid, but then the question becomes, what AD carry are they going to go for? Right now, I feel like XL are lacking some engage, so I wonder, can they get that from the AD? Yes, they can. They can get that from the AD carry if they go for a Sivir. We have not seen a Sivir for a while.
No, I'm going to find out when it last was, Vedius, while you continue to talk.
So, I was talking about an ability to actually start off fights. I think the Sivir can provide that. And with a composition like Olaf and Vladimir, all they really need are tools to be able to close the gap, and Sivir's ultimate does a fantastic job of enabling that. There's a lot of single target damage coming out from the Syndra, and because you have the pick power of the Thresh, XL do have a couple of tools in that capacity, but their late game prowess is very devastating as well. In terms of more traditional, straightforward team fighting, though, Fnatic have the composition. They have Varus engage, they have follow-up with Orianna, they have Gragas engage too, the Gangplank ultimate, a lot of AoE, wombo combo, a lot of what we've been seeing over this weekend of gameplay. So it's going to be an exciting one for sure. I'm ready to jump into Fnatic versus XL.
So am I. Last Sivir we saw was Attila in 2019 against Schalke. He won with it in the summer playoffs. Went 4-3-9. But here we go, into Fnatic versus XL. And on to Summoner's Rift we go. I will say, having a look at Patrik, he does have a really good win record on Sivir across the course of his career. This is all the games I can find on this handy little website. He has played 6 and has won 5 of them.
Wow.
83% win rate.
Damn. Okay.
But that does include the regional tournaments he played in as well.
So let's have a look at this level 1 very quickly before we talk more about the Sivir. XL cleared out that ward outside the Raptors. This suggests that Gragas wants to start on the top side of his map, and the reason why they put that ward down was because they were worried about a potential invade and they wanted information on what Caedrel does in the early game. They've restocked that ward so that they will be able to gain that information. Now Selfmade's actually going to move towards the bot side of the map. They're not going to know yet where the Olaf is starting. Olaf, of course, can start solo, which means that the Sivir can get into lane very early, get that early push going. Things can go quite comfortably. So interestingly about the Sivir, because we haven't seen her in such a long time, I think against a Varus, one of the things you've got to bear in mind is the massive range discrepancy between the two. Varus is one of the longest range AD carries in our game, whereas Sivir is actually very short. And this makes it very easy for the Varus to be able to get relatively easy trade backs. Things like the E are very easy to apply the effect and then slow and then go for those trades. And on top of that, you can also just keep stacking up those blights and get pretty favorable trades. The great thing about Sivir is her spell shield does mitigate that ultimate from the Varus, so it denies some of that later gank potential. She can also spell shield the Q from the Tahm Kench, which can also help keep the mana uptake. But overall, one of Sivir's greatest strengths is her ability to just shove in waves with her WQ combo. It can be quite mana intensive, but once she hits level 2, she can just keep the pressure up, and they can look for hooks and sort of like chip damages like you're seeing on your screen right now.
Especially when you don't have the thick skin as Tahm Kench, because you're only level 1, that sort of damage can stick pretty effectively. Did just want to mention that Torre has played Thresh 2 times this year and has won both times on it. So this is across the entirety of the LEC 2020. Very high win rate support, very powerful support as well because of the safety it provides for the AD carry, the hook potential that you have. And we'll see if Torre can bring those abilities to the fore in this game. Other lanes, let's have a look at how we're pushing. Special has got the priority in the mid lane right now. Nemesis is underneath the tower. But in top lane, Kryze is doing the opposite. He's farming under his tower as Bwipo has the advantage early on this Gangplank.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit more about this mid lane matchup because we don't get to see Syndra a lot. She's usually banned. Yeah. And I think many people who've experienced her in solo queue can find that she's quite oppressive in lane. The range of her Q is about 800. Right? And that doesn't seem very long, but it's very obnoxious, right? And so Orianna, the thing that she has to decide when she's trading in lane is whether she uses her ball to harass or whether she uses it to clear minions. Now, in the early stages of the lane, her damage to minions is actually very low. You rely a lot on points in your W, so when she gets to about level 5, level 6, that's when she really starts to actually apply pressure and clearing waves, and that's when she can start getting much more aggressive against the Syndra. But until that point, Syndra can just keep harassing with the Q, and every time the Orianna tries to walk up an auto attack, you're just going to keep getting bullied. So that's kind of what we're seeing in a situation like this, where you just keep getting pushed around, you keep getting bullied, but know that as the Orianna gets a couple more levels under her belt, that's where she can actually start to be significantly more aggressive.
You can actually see that in Nemesis' skill order. I'm bringing this up quite early, but you can see he's put a couple of points in E early on because he's getting constantly harassed out in the lane, getting that shield. Of course, your passive, I believe it's Clockwork Wind-Up, gives you that little bit more damage on your auto attacks, so you can try and get the CS with that, but Nemesis is just trying to stay safe in this lane right now.
Yeah, and I do like the adaptation because many Oriannas will typically go Q-Max. Sometimes if you want more wave clear, you can put more points in your W, but if you're putting points in E, it's largely just for that extra bit of safety and damage mitigation. You can see that Nemesis is having a bit of a rough time. He's at a pretty significant CS deficit in this early game, but the other thing he's taking into account is the fact that there is an Olaf jungle as well, who can show up at any time. We do see a bit of trading in the bot lane. I doubt it's going to amount to much, so I'm surprised that the exhaust did come out from Hylissang there. But yes.
I would have to watch a replay of it, but I'm pretty sure what Hylissang is trying to do is getting all 3 stacks of
I think you're right.
tastiness, whatever his passive is.
Acquired taste.
Acquired taste, that's the one. Because he had one, and then just as it fell off and he placed the exhaust, he then autoed again. So he's looking for 3, then he can devour, spit him back. Yes. But obviously it just didn't work out.
All right, so a little unfortunate there for Hylissang. The idea was promising, but the execution didn't quite come through. XL with a slight gold advantage right now, largely coming from the mid lane differential. And you can also see Nemesis prioritizing getting himself early magic resistance. So again, something that you often see when playing into Syndra lanes because of how oppressive that they can be. But yeah, once he gets a couple more levels under his belt, he should feel a little bit more comfortable to go for these trades. Now, Selfmade is looking for a gank. Special's level 6, though. He could one-shot Selfmade if he's not careful. So they've got to think about how they approach this play.
Caedrel's going to know this is happening. His Razorbeak's getting stolen away. He gets pretty much all of them there, and Selfmade can't get anything out of his time. He's going to have to retreat back on his way to Gromp. There's a CS differential in the jungle as well. Olaf, of course, one of the fastest clearers early on because you go low and then your attack speed goes up. Makes it pretty easy for you to farm out the jungle. But we talked a little bit about, how this Orianna is going to be able to start to get pushed back in the lane, start to be a little bit more aggressive. Talk to me about what sort of the strategy is for these two teams. Like, are XL very happy just allowing this Syndra to get extra farm in the mid lane and trying just to scale up?
Well, I think both teams are quite comfortable when it comes to scaling.
Yeah.
The thing with the Varus that you typically expect is because of how lane dominant he can be, it's usually a lane that you want to try and play through. And over in the LPL, they're actually very famous for using their Varus Tahm Kench combo for setting up dives because of your ability to reset tower aggro, which is why I quite like this Sivir pick, because what we're seeing is the Varus can't get as much lane dominance as you typically expect. The push is constantly in the favor of Sivir, and look at that, every time you try to harass back, she just gets her mana back, so she can just keep this pressure up. And so in terms of the CS difference, it's actually very even. So Fnatic haven't been able to play through bot lane. We haven't seen the Gragas make any gank. Well, I think we actually did see one attempt with the exhaust. Yes, but unfortunately that one did not pan out. And they also don't have prio in mid in these early levels. So in terms of the early game, Fnatic right now don't have a huge number of options. That doesn't mean that they're just going to fall off later. As we mentioned, they do have very strong wombo combo ability. But the thing that they have to be careful of is the fact that Vladimir and Sivir, once you get to the late game stages where there are about 3 items, that's where their team fighting power really comes online as well. So I feel Fnatic need to complete their first, second core major items, like Trinity Force on the Gangplank, maybe you want the Seraphs fully stacked and ready to go on the Orianna, and then you want to try and force a fight on that key single item power spike. Of course, that is when the Syndra is very scary, but the Sivir and the Vladimir won't be. They're looking at that kind of 3 item spike rather than just a 1 or 2. So I think there is a window where Fnatic can look to be very aggressive, and in that window is where we need to see them try and be proactive and look for these fights and plays.
The issue is, of course, if that Syndra is too powerful at that point. Like, if she can just one-shot someone, it's going to be a very difficult thing for you to do, and she does have a 30 CS lead now in the mid lane. So if you're not catching her out early on in the fight, you might struggle. You can see Fnatic going for an early swap here. Rekkles is coming up towards Caedrel. Now, Caedrel will have the Ragnarok if he got caught with a chain of corruption, but I'm a little interested in this change, because usually it's the support that roams away, right, and teams up with the jungler. But here they've sent Rekkles up, and Mickey actually, Hylissang spent a long time holding that bot lane wave, and is only now working his way up. You can see Torre has joined Special, and the Lantern just adds that extra degree of safety that makes it quite hard for Fnatic to find a pick. They are going to start up the Rift Herald. Yeah,
Sivid's just trading this for plates in the bot lane. It looks like XL, they're not going to risk contesting this, which I think is the smart play. Even though they can get priority in mid lane, they don't have prio top. The bot lane from Fnatic has rotated up. And great utilization of the Gangplank ultimate. Thank you, observers, for highlighting that as well, because it slows down the push from the Sivir, mitigates the number of plates the Sivir will actually be able to get, and now Fnatic can look to keep their duo up towards the top side, and they can probably look to trade towers, or XL can just swap back. So I think overall Fnatic is pretty happy, even though a small CS advantage has now been accrued in favor of Patrik, and he has hit level 7 as well.
Did get 2 plates off of that as well. He's now building up towards what I assume is an Essence Reaver on the Sivir with the BF Sword and the Caulfield's Warhammer. He also has a Cull stacking up, so he's about to finish that in about 30 CS. I'll just have more gold in his back pocket. XL, about 800 gold ahead right now, and they're in a pretty comfortable spot all round.
Yeah, I think that what we've seen from XL is that their early games haven't been super explosive over the weekend. They've kind of taken that slow style approach. And then where we've seen issues for them is when they get to the mid game and then a couple of people get caught out, their execution isn't always on point. And so as Frost was saying on the analyst desk, often the idea is good, execution isn't always there. Now, of course, this is the very start of the split. We've already seen some split favorites falter. We've seen some surprising upstarts, and so that's why you can never really afford to count XL out, because it is still week 1. You have some new players coming to play in the LEC and getting used to everything. So we'll see how XL progress from here. We can see a number of XL members rotating down towards the bot side. Of course, the Ocean Drake is up. This is going to be the big point of contention. And
Nemesis doesn't have TP. He doesn't have TP. The Rift Herald is going to come down, but XL, they want this fight. They're looking to fight when their Syndra is strongest. And Bwipo eaten up by Hylissang. First kill is going to go across as Thresh goes down. Kryze, though, with the Hemo play. Patrik trying to get the damage down, but he can't quite get it. Bwipo falls, so has Torre. Rift Herald did get a charge in, managed to take down 3 plates, but ends up being a 1-for-1.
I like that XL were able to mitigate the tower going down, though. Not too many plates were lost off the back of that, and XL will still hold on to the gold lead, which means it's currently 1-1. But Fnatic in a 4 versus 5 were able to get a pretty good disengage there, and when we bring the replay up, we can see exactly how they were able to do it. So as you mentioned, Orianna still sitting in the mid lane. The teleport was not available. The Herald comes down, and then the engage comes through. Bwipo is forced to flash out very quickly, but a really good Gragas ultimate and the consume from Hylissang keeps Gangplank alive for a very long time. I love the exhaust from Hylissang there as well to mitigate a lot of the damage that was coming out from Special, but while XL had the right idea, there was a big minion wave stopping Kryze from getting involved in the fight. The damage that was largely sitting on top of the Syndra was heavily mitigated, and we can see the power of this Tahm Kench in a situation like that, where XL, they just want to blow someone up, stop this push from happening, and walk away with a kill. But because Tahm Kench was there, that was heavily mitigated, and XL don't get everything that they want.
I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't seen Special go for a full reset yet. He's sitting on about 1,500 gold on the Syndra right now, and it's one of those moments where if Fnatic had fought around this dragon, you would have wanted him to have that little bit extra gold. Oh, okay. Thank you very much for highlighting that. Selfmade is on a ward as he comes up here. You could think with the 2 control wards being in the river, that he was safe to path here, but Kryze will know that Selfmade is on his way, and Selfmade will realize that Kryze probably knew that he was on his way. He backs away, he's going to take the Krux, clears out a ward. Meanwhile, Excel are playing down towards this bottom side. Torre with the hook, has the lantern. Caedrel's going to come across the wall here as well. Hylissang, no flash, no exhaust, no real way out of this one. He's going to pop the thick skin underneath the turret, but it's just one more auto attack that's needed. Caedrel lands the axe in the back of the catfish, and that's a new form of fishing, but it works out pretty well for XL.
Well played there from XL. This does, of course, mean that they'll be able to get some plates in the bot lane once that wave hits the tower, but Fnatic are doing the same in the top side regardless. Sitting with a healthy gold lead at the moment, but that might change. Is it special? I think he's going to die.
Does have the unleashed power, but doesn't have a life.
Nope.
And you know how much gold he was sitting on when he died? Like 2k.
Yeah, that's
2K.
enough to secure the Lune's Echo. Planned.
Faster recall, guys. Only 25-second respawn time.
I mean, of course, he still has a pretty significant advantage over Nemesis. He is sitting at level 11. This is a very big item to have completed. But of course, this gives Fnatic an opportunity to push in that wave, maybe secure a plate or two, which will be denied by a quick teleport coming in from Patrik as he upgrades to his Essence Revert. And remember what we were talking about, that item spike point where Fnatic have a window where they can probably look to fight. We're getting close to that. You can see the Trinity Force is now done for the Gangplank. He's about to hit level 11, so he'll have 2 points in his ultimate as well. And the Orianna, very close to completing that Archangel staff. Likely won't be upgraded to the Saras for a little while longer. But in any case, a lot of these core itemizations are coming through for Fnatic, so they can think about looking for a fight. Right now, XL isn't insanely strong. You can see the Vladimir is still relatively weak, so there's a pretty big top lane discrepancy right now. And Syndra's really the only one you have to be very scared of, because Varus, by going for the lethality choice, you obviously have a lot more innate power that much earlier in the game. So you don't have to wait for your like 3rd or 4th core itemization to really turn online.
We'll see if Fnatic decide to on the side of caution, or if they take a fight. The Rift Tower is going to be up in about a minute's time, so they could decide to play on that top side of the map. We've still got 2.5 minutes on the Drake, but XL, the duo of Caedrel and Torre, jungle support, something we see so often, decided not to actually kill that ward. And left it on 1 HP. I guess Special can get it as he comes up through the tri-bush.
I mean, it's not seeing anything anyway, right?
Yeah, but you kill him. That's gold.
I mean, I agree. It's also a bit of experience too.
Oh, yeah. That is true. That is true.
Yep.
Can you remember the good old days when Nasus used to be able to Q wards and gain health? It was
Wait, doesn't that... You can't do that
work anymore, no.
I haven't played.
I still remember watching
so
Snoopy survive because he queued a ward in a game at some point, but no Nasus in this game. A little bit of a nostalgia trip for me there. Sorry, buddy. It's getting near the end of the night. I'm, sleepy time. But the Rift Tower will be secured by Fnatic. No fight's going to get taken here by XL. They don't have teleport on Special or Patrik, so they wouldn't have been able to join the fight anyway. And Selfmade will secure the Rift Tower for himself. He's having a pretty good game so far. 2-0-0. Got himself that Oblivion Orb and the Runic Echoes upgraded. Has the stopwatch in case he goes a little bit too deep at any point.
So I'd like to see Fnatic use this Herald in the mid lane. By breaking that tower, it opens up the map a lot more. And when playing against a Sivir, you want to try and... Well, sieging that mid lane tower becomes a lot harder because... Yeah, that's why. So by having the Rift Herald, it makes it a lot harder for Patrik to be able to stall things out. But with the mid lane tower gone, it gives you easier access into the enemy jungle, and you can start to utilize some of your... or really open up Bwipo a little bit more, considering he is very strong at this point in time. With the Drake spawning in about a minute, that's where I expect to see Fnatic looking for a fight. Not only is it the 3rd Drake of the game, but it is an opportunity for them to try and swing the momentum of this game back in their favor. Obviously, the gold is still very even, but we're kind of thinking forward. And if XL is even at this point in the game, they're sitting comfortably.
Yep.
Because I do think that with the Sivir and with the Vladimir, they will have stronger team fighting later on into the game. So we'll have to wait and see as Fnatic is grouping up.
Caedrel is here, trying to get Hylissang. He will pop that thick skin. Ragnarok was used as well, though. Bwipo forced off towards the top side of this fight. Special looking for some damage over the wall. Will hit Selfmade just a little bit. And the thing about this is it's not always about killing the enemy. If you chunk someone out, it then takes them time to get back, and you have that extra time to try and play around the dragon. The issue with doing it on a Tahm Kench is he has the Abyssal Voyage. So he's able to get back into this fight just that little bit quicker. Torre, though, with a good hook on Nemesis, was going to get the play. Caedrel with the undertone. Nemesis has the shockwave. Remember, there's no Ragnarok on Caedrel. So if Nemesis went a little bit further... Oh, Special. Special, unleash power, flashes forward, Force of Will. flash away from the Dark Sphere there by Nemesis, but the Dragon is available for XL. However, good stuff from Rekkles and from Bwipo and from Selfmade to put the Rift Herald down here in the mid lane, trying to open up the map a little bit more. Special and Caedrel are behind enemy lines in the jungle near this red. The teleport coming in. Hylissang flashes forward. He's looking for that acquired taste. He's going to lick up Special, knock him back straight into the shockwave, and goodbye Syndra. That is a great fight, great pick there for Fnatic. Caedrel's going to get the lantern out, and this should be Fnatic's Dragon.
What could have been a great opportunity for XL actually ends up in disaster, as Hylissang recognized it with the flash gone from Special. They can get a punish. Now Selfmade looking for Patrik. Doesn't have the Gragas ultimate though. Ooh, Rekkles. Yeah, forces the flash out from Patrik. He was worried about the lethality damage that could come out from the Varus. Didn't have the spell shield up and we forced to disengage. This means Fnatic now feeling a little bit more comfortable in this situation. So this is after Special has used his flash to try and get that kill onto Orianna, which means the Hylissang can flash and he's like, hey, my team has priority in mid lane. We can get this collapse through the TP from Nemesis as well. And Nemesis ends up getting vengeance against the opposing mid laner. They end up getting that kill. Caedrel gets out to safety, but they lose so much control over the Drake. And it's these small mistakes that we're seeing from XL. We've been seeing them a couple of times over the weekend, and we see it once again here. Special can't find that kill. They're too deep in the enemy jungle, and Fnatic successfully punish them.
Do you want to give credit to Nemesis flashing over the force of will? Like, the scat of the week, right? He dodged it. Sorry, Hylissang, not Nemesis. Credit to Hylissang for dodging that. Some days he has more aggressive days, some days the aggression pays off, and today seems to be like one of those. Selfmade though flashing forward here, looking for the body slam. Torre's trying to dodge away from the explosive cast, but he doesn't realize it's on cooldown right now. If I'm Selfmade there, I'm just looking at him like, ah, you don't know. Oh, no.
I don't think, well, Selfmade even used his flash.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can understand why they would be pretty committed to believing.
Yep.
And ultimately, that ends up being worth for XL because, hey, Gragas doesn't have flash anymore.
It's true.
And meanwhile, Bwipo will be securing that tower in the bot lane. I think he's done a great job in the side lane so far this game. The Vladimir, one item completed, working towards the next. Still a ways away from being a big threat that Fnatic need to be scared of. And it feels to me that Fnatic have, after that Drake play, claimed a little bit more agency over the game. They're consistently pushing in mid, they're looking for these picks, and they're forcing XL to play more on the defensive. This Syndra, who was very dominant in the laning phase and has a big CS advantage. When I have a look at the gold, okay, there's still a pretty sizable difference between the two mid laners, I will acknowledge, but in terms of itemization, it's not that dramatic. You can see the bigger difference is really coming from the 280 carries, but again, because Patrik is playing more of the hyper carry style of AD, where you're going for the traditional crit build, and Rekkles is going full of lethality, even though he's at a deficit, he's probably stronger than the Sivir is right now. You can see that he did just complete his Yomus as well, so with 2 lethality items done, he's feeling very strong. You can see that Selfmade also completing the Morello. So I feel like Fnatic should feel very confident at this point in time to be willing to go for fights.
Here they go.
They're just going to get back to lane to be able to clear this wave out. Yeah, I thought the same thing as you. They were looking for a flank.
I was a bit too eager there, Vedius. I apologize.
It's all good, it's all good. So right now Fnatic's setting up around the Baron area. I don't expect them to force it, just getting some vision control, because there's nothing to play for on the bot side of the map. You know, this is the sort of state where you could think about freezing. I'm not an expert enough, especially in this specific situation, to say whether you could do it for sure, but this is the kind of situation where you can think about it.
I can see that, I think,
Let's have a look at Bwipo. Let's have a look at Bwipo. Let's see what he does in this situation. Is he going to look to freeze it here?
He's freezing, Benny! He pulled... okay. He did try to freeze.
I don't think he did, because he shot the caster minion. So, I don't know if his plan was to freeze there.
Maybe not.
You've always got to look for these things with Fnatic. We know they're big advocates of the freeze.
Yeah, Sapopelas, as Trevor and Frost named him yesterday.
In any case, as you can see, the game is very... It's not very slow. It's slowed down compared to some of the action that we saw earlier on, with a lot of the outer towers now dropping, both mid lane towers getting very low. The Baron is becoming a point of contention. I imagine the next big fight will be around this Drake, or it could be in the bot lane.
Yeah, Kryze is going to get body slammed. He has no vision around here. Pops the Sanguine Pool, but where are you going to go? You're flashing the wall? He's trying to get out with a phase rush. He turns it back around. The Hemo Plague has been popped as well, and Kryze, he's ticking away, but he heals up. I don't know how you get out of this one. I'm pretty sure you just get chased down. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Angry monkey Kryze goes down in the end. Did waste some time. And Bwipo will be able to push in that wave. Special's going to get a turret in the top lane for the time that was spent down towards that bottom lane. But Bwipo has so much magic resist and is going for a Death's Dance just to top it up as well. So it's going to be very hard for Kryze to play that 1v1. Patrik pops the ultimate here. Got to go fast as he speeds his way into the mid lane, and XL get their third tower of the game. Goal pretty even, although it's a slight lead for Fnatic as they take that turret, about 1,000 or so.
So we can see that Bwipo continuing to push down that bot side. Fnatic right now, even though the gold is only about 1k, very much in control of this game. XL should not be counted out by any means. We still look at their ability to scale as something very prominent, rather. And even though Gangplank has itemized heavy magic resistance, he's obviously not itemizing to deal with Patrik. So if a single Ricochet lands in a team fight, trust me, Bwipo will melt.
Especially with the Infinity Edge now complete.
Yeah, exactly that. So it's something that Fnatic have to take into consideration. They want to think about trying to accelerate the state of the game right now so that this Sivir doesn't get to that very terrifying point. They're going to be looking to secure the second Cloud Drake. I think this is great for Gangplank, especially. I think having his ultimate on available more often is extremely valuable. If you get it to 40%, like that is really, really good, especially with an Orianna and a Varus where their ultimates can be so impactful as well. So pretty helpful Drake for Fnatic for the time being. You can see the XL still holding control around the Baron for now. Both teams just posturing, looking back and forth. And to be fair, XL, there were some question marks coming into this game. How would they stack up against Fnatic? They're doing reasonably well for the time being, but we have seen a couple of those small mistakes which the experienced team in the form of Fnatic were very quick to punish. And it's something that you always have to be careful of, because if you're not always playing on your toes, a team like Fnatic is very quick to try and pick you apart in those small windows.
For example, there where Caedrel was standing outside of the bush. Perhaps doesn't really matter. He wasn't going to kill Hylissang anyway, but having just those small mistakes can cost you a lot. And meanwhile, Selfmade, Rekkles, and Bwipo are going to try and push in this lane. They know that Kryze is busy dealing with the top wave. So he pushes it out. He's now going to work his way across towards mid. But we are getting to that point where Fnatic could look towards a Baron. They're at least clearing out the vision.
Pretty fast, I would say.
I would agree with you. I think a traditional AD carry would make it just that slightly bit faster, obviously. But
it's one of those things where I don't think it's slow.
Yeah,
you know, like
it's
when you
not
have
like a 30-second Baron.
Yeah, because when you have like a Senna, you're like, okay, that's a slow Baron, right? But I think it's fine. But it's not like a Jinx Baron where you're just like, okay, it's dead. That's the sound effect Jinx makes.
Yeah, Jinx goes brrrr.
Yeah. In any case, very quickly moving away from that's the sound effect Sivir makes. Fush, fush.
Or ding dong, your pizza's here, depending on what skin you're using.
That's also fair. Yeah. All right, I respect it.
See? Fush, 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 fush. Okay, we'll go back to game.
I mean, to be fair, you were describing gameplay very specifically. I think you showcased everyone how much you listen to League of Legends. Anyway, Baron. Both teams just clearing out vision for the time being. Wait, can we have a quick look at Bwipo again? Do you know what he's doing?
Look, Velius, it's been a warm day, and Bwipo has decided he wants an ice cold. Okay,
you were just like, do you think he's... Pff, never mind.
There's no better way to disagree with an argument than just shooting a minion in the face.
He's like, oh, I think he could be. No.
He is slow pushing, though.
Yeah, he's stacking a wave right now. And the reason why you do that is because it forces Kryze to invest more time into the bot side. Notice that he's moving with the wave as well. He feels very confident, because even if someone were to gank him, because Fnatic have 4 members on the top side, they could rush Baron. So the only downside to that is XL are running 3 teleports, so he does have to be careful, but it depends on who shows up. If Caedrel shows up right now, then that gives a window for Fnatic to be like, ooh, Baron maybe? But no, of course, Bwipo's just going to disengage from that one.
I will say I like Kryze's itemization here. He knows he's going to be dealing with Bwipo most of the time, so he's gone Void Staff second, getting rid of some of that magic resist.
There's also a Banshees.
Also, Banshees, like Edge of Night, Locket, although Edge of Night doesn't give magic resist. No, it's just
it used to,
shield.
and it's deceptive because it gives you the Banshee's Veil shield, but yeah, no magic resistance.
Locket of the Iron Solari. I'm just going to list all the things that give you magic.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, Mercury Treads.
I think we agree. Void Staff,
more
good
Mortials.
itemization choice here. Yeah, precisely. Oh, and he's got the...
Executioners.
Yep, that's the one. That's a lot of damage.
Patrik, though, is going to take some damage in response. Oh, that's actually really nicely done. Lantern, flash away into Patrik getting to safety. Patrik doesn't have to burn his flash, which is so important for a later team fight. I'll give him some credit there. That was well escaped by Patrik and by Torre, but they are going to have to sacrifice at least one turret in mid, probably a couple, as Fnatic are going to try and up the tempo of this game. We've gone from Adagio to Rapido. Can't remember my musical tempos that well, but I hope those were right. As Fnatic force the play down the mid lane. Now, Special is in a side lane. He's going to get some damage on that turret down towards the bottom lane.
I like the way in which Bwipo, he stacked that wave in bot to give him room to rotate around to mid, so the Fnatic were actually a 5-man when XL went for that pick, giving them a pretty significant numbers advantage and knowing that Kryze and Special would be forced to invest their TP if they wanted to try and contest. This gave Fnatic 2 very quick towers, which then gave them the opportunity to gain a lot more control over the map. But now XL are starting off this Baron. They forced it. The Nemesis is in the brush above them.
They don't know he's there. Look at it, he's already got the ball onto Patrik, and now the shockwave. Oh, Patrik flashes away from it, and they're going to try and turn onto Nemesis, but the flank comes in from Rekkles. In the pit is Selfmade. Patrik, there's no way you survive this. Rekkles takes him out. Now it's Kryze and Torre versus the world, but Torre is down. A triple for Rekkles, the Baron for Fnatic, and XL have made one of their classic mid-game blunders.
I think that was just a very easy punish for Fnatic. The waves were not set up to allow XL to rush that one down. Fnatic also had multiple teleports at their disposal, the Gangplank ultimate as well, the Abyssal Void. It was so easy for Fnatic to be able to rotate, but XL were concerned. They felt like the game was getting away from them, and they wanted to try and take that gamble. It doesn't pay off. Kill score now 8-2 in favor of Fnatic, and they're in full control of this game. Not looking to end it right now, but they're dead set on their way.
They really are. Such a powerful position for Fnatic to be in. Baron's going to be up for another 2.5 minutes or so. They've already taken down the mid inhib. Bwipo is an unstoppable split-pushing monster. No one can really deal with him in the 1v1. And we'll have another look at this. Rekkles
so
on his way. The Abyssal, oh yes, the home guards. And the Abyssal Voyage comes in as well. But Nemesis,
it's his positioning, really.
So good.
Yeah, because he's coming in from behind. And XL think that they can jump on top of him and rush him down. But there you see the value of the Banshee's Veil, the investment in this magic resistance, mitigating so much of the Syndra damage. Bwipo then comes in to help with the cleanup as well. And with the Sivir dead, a lot of the damage then disappears as Kryze is just forced to retreat. And again, I feel like Fnatic did a great job of utilizing Bwipo on a side lane. He was that strong point, getting those core optimizations, and now they're looking for Patrik. He gets one shot by Selfmade as Selfmade dances on his body. Fnatic now looking to end the game.
So I believe the Cannon Barrage will proc the Spell Shield. So if you pop it, and then he pops Spell Shield, it's like, oh no, okay, sorry, that's going to be popped before I come in with a Body Slam. So that's really good coordination from Fnatic, and now they are coordinating a push down the middle lane. XL, well, you held on for a long time, but it feels like death knells for you right now. Hook's going to land, but the Shockwave comes down. Torre goes out of here. And a double kill, a triple kill for Rekkles. Give him the quadra. Kryze gonna flash away and try and stop it from happening. But this is why you don't give Varus to Rekkles. He is 6-0-3, dominating this game, and Fnatic will top the table undefeated with Rogue.
Overall, very solid game from Fnatic. It felt like that XL, they had a couple of tools that they could have been using in the early game with the likes of the Thresh. They had a Syndra Olaf that they could have been very aggressive with. And